What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. It is the 17th day of November, and here we are sitting at about $95.4 thousand with 11 hours and 31 minutes left in the day. You guys hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it. We need to hold inside of this pattern. I know that there's various lines that we've broken that people are afraid of, right? Like this line here from a low connecting the dots down here. But typically it's when you break these trend lines that this, if we were to delete this trend line going back here, I don't know how many people are paying attention to this one or not. We've been watching it like a hawk, but this trend line here, typically it's when you break these trend lines right there. That's the best time to buy. But contrary to that, we've got this trend line and we're right above it. I mean, might we go just below it, and that's the best time to buy? And then is that just above another trend line in which we go lower? We could just stair step all the way down and continue to do this. I do think that we're at a good place to buy, but something I do want to mention is not financial advice, not a financial advisor. I do think that we are at our low areas, if not the low is in effectively. But something I want to mention is that here you found support. Here one day you were down here and then the next day you were up. You found support. Here you kind of grinded for like 3 days, but ultimately you found support, right? Here we're grinding. It's been like 3 days now. We're not necessarily finding support. I mean, we are finding support right now, but we're not moving away from it. We're not bouncing and recovering. We need to do this because the longer that we grind here, we didn't do that really with any of these other moments, right? Maybe for like 3 days at the most, like we are now. But the longer we grind here, the more likely we are to break out, right? In other words, the same kind of thought comes up with this trend line here. Whenever you look at it here, from this low connecting the dots down here, you bounced, and then you grinded, and then what happened? Then you broke through, right? We don't want to break through this line because the measure move, if this is a megaphone pattern, I think it is, looks like a duck and it quacks like one. The measure move to this pattern would take us all the way down to about $69,000-$70,000, something like that. That would be the measure move of this pattern right here. Right. Something roughly down to about like 70K. So we don't want to break out to the downside. Now, again, real quick, there are multiple scenarios where we can break below this trend line and still not break down to 70K. We could break down here, have a fake out, close back up. We could wick like we did yesterday, wick just below that line, things like that. We just don't want to close multiple days consistently below this line because that would look really bad. On the bright side, the shorts outweigh the longs by a lot, right? I mean, we've got about $7.5 billion in shorts to $1.6 billion in longs. That's a pretty big difference there, and there are a lot of shorts to get liquidated. There's literally $2.6 billion in shorts to get liquidated at about 98K. I would think that we're due for a bounce, not just to 98K, but prices back above 100K, even like toward 110K. We'll see. But it's kind of interesting how low the leverage position volume is. I haven't seen it really where both longs and shorts for Bitcoin over the past 30 days, we're less than $10 billion across the board in leveraged positions. Open interest must be way down, guys. That's crazy. I want to see, actually, let's just see open interest. Let's pull this up again. Did it go even lower? Does this update regularly? I don't know how CoinGlass works. I mean, I know how it works a little bit, I guess, but I don't know how they intake their data. I mean, that's some of the lowest. That is the lowest levels of open interest that we've seen since May. Like, we're at lower levels than June right now, you guys. That really builds confidence in me that we are, in fact, ready to move higher. We really are. Time will tell. But that's, yeah. Binance futures open interest is way down. Yeah. Crazy. Crazy. Just for Binance? Exchange. It's for all exchanges. Okay, cool. Anyways, looking at Bitcoin here, BTC, low leverage positions overall. Typically, that is whenever we break out, right? It's whenever you get to these lower levels of open interest that we are ready to move higher. When we're at high levels of open interest, that means people are putting on leverage positions left and right, shorts, longs, whatever. And that's typically whenever you see these choppy, sideways, volatile price actions, because then you're wrecking the shorts, then you're wrecking the longs, you're wrecking people who are maybe they're trading options, they have a deadline, a time frame that they have to have a certain price by. The fact that we're down here now with such low leverage and yet still we are dominant to the short selling side, I am confident that we do move higher. I am very confident that we move higher from here. I want to look, let's see, liquidation map. I think a lot of people are starting to accept that it's a bear market right now, and I'm not quite there. Maybe I'm in denial, maybe I'm a delusionist, but as far as I'm concerned, we're still holding well in this pattern. And I don't care what pattern anybody draws. I don't care if we've broken this trend line, right, that trend line, whatever it might be. The trend line that's the most significant is the one that's dating back the furthest, which would be from July. That is the megaphone pattern that we're in right now. So I very much would expect and do expect that we bounce from here. But what we're looking for again is a reaction like this, something bigger than this. Anything lesser than like a move like this would likely then lead to a move that breaks us out to the downside, right? It's just like this. Here, you had a very nice reaction. Here, you had a very nice reaction. Same thing here. Here, your lesser reaction led to a breakout to the downside. If we have a lesser reaction here, we could be in trouble. I want to look at the 1 hour time frame. I don't want to talk so much anymore. Let's do the 1 hour, and then we'll zoom out from there, okay? Looking at the 1 hour, and maybe we can delete this trend line too. I don't think we need it. Looking at the RSI, overall it's very bearish, right? Consistently getting oversold, not getting overbought really at all. Living below the 50 predominantly. Here we are above the 50 a little bit more consistently than what we normally see, but we're not really doing much with it. I'm not impressed. There's nothing really to go off of here. We're either about to reject and come down is what I'm seeing, or we're about to push higher, which would be nice, and then that could lead to a breakout here, but I don't know. A lot of volume over the past 24 hours. Interesting. More like 21 hours, but still interesting. Looking at the stochastics, we're bullish. Looking at the MACD, we are about to cross above the zero, which is bullish. So we really are about to push here or reject down. And if we reject down, I wouldn't think that we see a lower low than this. We could, maybe we fall back down to something just below 94K, or perhaps we find support at like the relative golden ratio, which would be at about 94.2K. So somewhere around that area if we were to fall lower. Maybe 94.8K holds, but I think we are going to break out to the upside. The RSI is kind of iffy, but the stochastics and the MACD give me enough belief, enough confidence that we will move up. So I'm going to call for that. I think we are going to move up from here. 4 hour time frame. Let's look at that. Maybe there's more clarity here. 4 hour time frame. There is bullish divergence there, right? You've got a low here and a higher low in your RSI. Low here, lower low in your price. That bullish divergence move may have come to fruition with this little move up here. That could have been it, but maybe there's more to go. The stochastics would suggest that there's more to go, and the MACD allows for it as well. So I'm liking the idea that we do find support here. Let's just see. Low to high. Right at the golden ratio, a little double bounce. If we are rejecting the 0.4, I'll tell you what, if we return to 94K, the statistical probability that we go below this low actually goes up. So where before I was saying we could go to 94K and find support, I mean, that could happen. But if we go back down here, statistically, we'd likely go down to about 91.9 to 91,000 itself. And do remember, there are CME gaps down there. I actually want to see BTC futures. Let's just see. There is a CME gap down here, right? And we've kind of come down, if you think about it, right, this day here closed, and then this day opened right here. So the gap was between here. We've already kind of filled that gap with these wicks. We kind of wicked back down into this gap as well here. Does that count as a gap fill? I don't know. Some people would say a partial fill is a fill. Some people would say you have to wait for it to fill entirely with a wick. Some people say it has to fill with a closing candle body. I don't know. But we're definitely in the realm of filling this gap. Could we go a little bit lower and get the deed done 100%? Maybe. I'm not under the impression of us going lower, but if we were to go lower, 91K looks like it'd be the area to focus on as far as support goes. Something between 91 and 86.5 if we were to go lower, but I'm just not entirely there yet as far as going lower goes. Again, the stochastics here, you could reject here. And I'm not saying you can't have a little bit of turbulence, you can't move down. I'm just saying it would be really weird to stop here. Typically, you would stop in the overbought zone. You wouldn't stop here. So I would expect that you keep pushing higher. That doesn't necessarily mean that we have to go up to like $100,000 or above or anything like that, but just a little bit higher from here would be my expectation at the very least. Daily time frame, looking at the RSI, no bullish divergence, slightly lower lows here. Kind of like a double bottom though. We did reject the oversold zone yesterday, right? With yesterday's close here, if we're looking at this, we rejected the oversold zone. You came up and then rejected it right here with that close. If today closes here, that rejection was short-lived, and that's actually a really good sign. That could promote some serious growth. Getting out of the overbought or the oversold zone here typically does allow us to grow a little bit for Bitcoin. So that's nice to see. It'd be nice, in other words, to close today. We have 11 hours and 21 minutes left. It'd be nice to close today green, and specifically green enough to where we are out of the oversold zone and in this range here. So something, if I had to guess, probably above 95K. We don't have bullish divergence on the MACD. No bullish divergence there. No bullish divergence on the stochastics. Everything is basically as bearish as it can be, if we're being fair, except for the RSI, I suppose. But it depends on the close. Calling for a bounce here. Not really any signals of it. As far as these indicators go, there's really not any signals other than the fact that we have found support in this area, in the RSI typically, and same thing in the stochastics. And typically, throughout this cycle, whenever we see these levels of fear, we are at a low point as well. Other than that, I'm not really seeing too much. So that doesn't mean that we can't go lower. We're definitely at a low point here, but I am expecting a bounce any day now, if not today and then on. So that's the call. We're at a low, if not the low, and we should be moving up. We should be moving up over the coming days, going into the end of this month. People are already writing off November as if it's a red month, but we got 13 days and 12 hours left, you guys. There's still a lot of month left. Bitcoin can certainly come back and even finish this month green. So I'm sure there's not many people talking about that right now, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if by the end of November we were back up here above 110K. But we got some work to do. And before that becomes a more kind of confident call, we need to get above 100,000 again. We need to get back above 101K. I want to leave you guys with some levels to watch, and then we'll just wrap this video up, okay? We'll go from the all-time high to the low of what has just been a wicked drop since the 6th of October there, high to low. Getting above $105,000, the 382 here, getting above $105,000 is kind of the first checkpoint that we need to pass if we want to validate this as a low. Ultimately getting above here, the golden ratio, closing, and not just getting above, but closing above about $112.3 thousand. Let's call it 112.5. We'll just round up. Closing a day above 112.5K is very validating to the idea that this is the low and that we are likely going to take out this high. But ultimately, once we get above 116.4K, that's the ultimate validation level there, I would say. That gets us back above a resistance point here, prior resistance here, and resistance here, and support back here, all this stuff. It's kind of a significant level since July within the confines of this megaphone pattern. And at that point, of course, the breakout point for the megaphone would be, somewhere around like 128K, and that's an important level to watch too. But I think I would be getting just as excited, if not more excited, to break above 116.4K. I think that's really the level to watch. If we break down, again, 105K is what we're looking for to break above. 112.5K validates the low. 116.4K validates we're going to see new all-time highs. If we go down to... And I guess what really validates that we see new all-time highs is just seeing new all-time highs. But if we go down, let's just see any lower, where would we go? Low here to a high there. Would I take this high or this high? If we were to go lower, I think 91K does hold as support, but it is possible that we go just below there. 91 to 87K, maybe 91 to 86K. 90K, 87K here, something in that area if we were to go lower. And that level would need to hold. If it doesn't hold, we very likely will go down to levels that are below $70,000. Okay. Anyways, and I don't think that's what's going to happen. I don't think that we're in a bear market. I don't expect that that's what's going to happen. I do think a lot of people have started calling this a bear market now, and that's because probably primarily because we've closed the week below the 50-week moving average. I know Ben Cohen himself has even said that we have a 60 to 70% chance that the top is in because of this weekly close here. But I'm not so sure because, again, if we're focusing on the 50-week moving average here, we haven't closed below it at all this cycle. We've found support at it, and it definitely seems like a significant level. But if it's this strict that closing below it means that we're in a bear market, does that mean that closing above it means we're in a bull market? Because if the answer is yes to either of those questions, then that should mean that back here we were in a bull market. But we weren't, were we? We actually came back down, right? We literally came right back down immediately. Here we closed below it and then we closed back above it. Does that mean we're still in a bull market? No. Was that a fake out? No. We kept going lower. Here we closed below it. Does that mean that we're not going to see new cycle highs? No, we actually saw new cycle highs right then thereafter. We made a move that went directly to new highs. Now, did we go below it at all really throughout the rest of the cycle? Yes, a couple times. And again, here, that was actually a low point. We moved higher. We actually saw a higher high, a slightly higher high. And then we had a lower point here. I'm just saying it hasn't been the end all be all since really since 2018. Maybe things have changed now. And if we're correlating the 50-week moving average to traditional markets like the stock markets, typically the 50-week moving average is actually a low point as well. Whenever you typically, not always, but typically, whenever you close a week below the 50-week, that's actually when it's the best time to buy. And I'll show you real quick, SPX. Right, like the best time to buy was below here. We weren't in a bear market. The bear market was over. Best time to buy was below, right? Good time to buy was here, relatively speaking, but ultimately it did go down. This did start a bear market. This was a massive market-wide crash, but this marked a low, right? Here, if you sold, you'd have been kicking yourself a few months later, right? You might have caught a little bit of a dump. But typically it's below this 50 that you're actually at low points in the stock market, not really the beginning of a bear market like we did here, right? How many of those examples led to something like this, led to an actual bear market? Not really any of them other than this one. So I'm just saying I'm not so convinced yet, at least not by the way of this 50-week moving average. I'm not convinced that we have a bear market yet. I need to see more. I think that the only people who are calling for a bear market right now are people who are solely looking at this, and it's on us to be observant to more than just one indicator. So this is a pretty serious indicator. It's a pretty not ideal thing to close below. But if we start showing life, and again, my question is, what happens then if this is so detrimental to the bull market's cause? What happens then when we close above it? Are we saved? Is it that significant? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. If one week we close below, it's the bear market, and then the next week we close above and it's the bull market, that doesn't seem like that significant of an indicator to me. Anyways, hit the like button, subscribe, take care of yourselves. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.